It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Did you know that there's a formula for trust? Oftentimes we think of trust in binary, like either we trust someone or we don't trust them. But the formula for trust is much more nuanced than we might think. I often say we should start by learning the components of trust that can help us understand what parts are missing from a person or situation so that we can be more clear in identifying what's causing our concern. Usually, if you can name what's causing the concern, you can address it. So, frequently, when trust is in question, there tends to be a lack of one of the following three things: it's either a lack of sincerity, competence, or consistency. Each of these components is an element of reliability. If someone means what they say, is good at what they do, and shows up to meet all their commitments, their reliability and self accountability are the stuff from which trust is born. But if you take a look at each of those three components in a little more detail, it could give you some insight as to what pieces are missing or where the gaps are. So the first one has to do with sincerity. So, sincerity is the virtue of one who communicates and acts in accordance with the entirety of their feelings, beliefs, thoughts, and desires in a manner that is honest and genuine. It's the quality of being free from pretense, deceit, or hypocrisy. Now, sincerity is not always easy. It's sometimes hard to have a level set sincerity about everything that you do and everyone that you encounter. And it's important that you realize that it's not required for you to have all those things, but it definitely is something for you to consider if you're trying to hone in on trust. The second one has to do with competence. Competence is the ability to do something successfully or efficiently, the quality or state of having sufficient knowledge, judgment, skill, or strength. If you think about the difference between competencies and skills, competencies are the knowledge, skills, abilities, and behaviors that contribute to individual and organizational performance. Knowledge is just the information developed or learned through experience, study, or investigation. Skill is the result of repeatedly applying knowledge or abilities. If you think about it, it does kind of tie together, but it's not always just so cut and dry, right? So, competence is something that's very important and something that's often not considered when talking about trust. And then the last one probably is the most important one, the one that's most talked about, and that's character. Character is the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. So, your character includes your personality, how reliable you are, how honest you are, and the way that you are perceived by others. So, if you and the way you perceive yourself, I might add. But when all these factors are in place, that's when you can know whether you can rely on someone to show up and deliver what they said they're going to do. If you build an understanding of those three components and allow yourself to put together a toolkit that will support approaching, working with, or confronting folks when you recognize that something's not exactly where it needs to be, that you don't have full confidence in something. When you consider each ingredient, make an assessment as to which piece is really impacting your ability to trust, it'll help you better identify what needs to shift in order for trust to be built. For example, if you say, well, they have X and Y, but they have X and they don't have Y, but I really love to see more of Z, it gives you time to think about and consider what things need to be adjusted in order for trust to be present. So sometimes you can ask yourself, or here's a simple exercise. This will make it easy. If you want to do a simple exercise, you could think of a time in which you didn't trust someone. It could be someone on your team, someone in your life, someone in your family. Ask yourself these following questions: what did they do or not do that contributed to your distrust? What parts of the trust formula were missing? And how are these showing up and what contributed to the distrust that happened? How do you confront that lack of trust in the past? What did you do before that, you may want to either course correct or do again, depending on how it panned out? And in this current situation for you, what are the specific bits of feedback you might have at a person who maybe has disengaged your trust or rattled your trust a little bit and caused you to feel uncomfortable? If you can think about how to establish this essential leadership skill and get back to an element of trust, an environment of trust, it's going to help you to be a stronger leader. It's going to help you to be a better person, and it's going to help you be a more influential team member. So I hope you enjoyed this agile, not so agile episode of the Daily Stand Up Podcast. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, make sure you reach out to us at learnmoreatagiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.